Hello and welcome to another episode of Supercoach Insider. My name is Ben.
And I'm Chris.
And thank you for joining us for our Essendon Bombers podcast, Chris.
Yeah, it's the most hated team in the AFL. Oh, well, sorry, that's Brisbane Lions.
Oh, Chris, you can only flog the same dead horse so many times. However, it's funny you should say flogging of dead horses. This could rival North Melbourne for the shortest podcast of the year.
It could. There's not much relevancy here. I suppose we where do we start? With the socials? Yeah,
Socials.
We start with the socials, mate. So
SC Insider 100. You can find us on Twitter, on Facebook, on SoundCloud, on Spotify, on Stitcher,
Apple
on
Podcasts,
Twitch,
on
Apple Podcasts,
Google Podcasts, all the podcasts.
Yep, and search Supercoach Insider on YouTube.
Mate, you got this down in one. What up?
On the
Let's
line.
go. On the line. Let's
come
go.
and enjoy our company. Come and enjoy our faces wherever you are. I do want to have a quick little mention here, though, is that for the last 6 days, and we're talking about before Carlton drops, because we're obviously doing this slightly before time. We can predict the future. And we've had 2,250 listens in the last 6 days across YouTube and all of the audio platforms. And that's before Carlton even hit. So over 3 episodes, over 6 days, and some of them only just dropped. We've had a pretty good response, Chris. I think about 2,300 nearly, 2,250.
Yeah, no, it's been all right. Still hoping to push those numbers up. You got to pump those numbers up.
Rookie numbers.
Those are rookie numbers.
Yeah, but again, some people haven't looked at their sides yet. We didn't really announce that we're kind of coming back to stream either, so we just started hitting it.
We did.
And I'm sure everyone will catch on and the love juice will start flowing.
Absolutely. Round 2. I respect that.
Leech.
All right. Well, let's just get straight into it, guys, with the rookies at Essendon. Obviously, they had those 3 big picks inside top 10. And they really had to target needs basis because obviously everyone's left them and they suck. So they did that.
Just having one look at that crook-looking bastard, you could tell he didn't play sport, couldn't you?
And that's the whole team.
You can. That's absolutely true. So starting off with pick 8, they picked up Nick Cox. Now, unfortunately, so it was a draft known for really high end tools, and loving the beer, which is good. It's a good thing. But of course, they didn't get the top tools. So the top tools in the draft, guys like Logan McDonald, obviously Ugal Hagan, Denver Granger, those sort of guys, they were gone by these picks. So they had to sort of go with what's the next best available was. And the first one they got was Nick Cox at 200 centimeters and 87 kilos. He's a 175k defender forward. Unique prospect, obviously, with elite traits. He's a tall utility who can play either end of the ground, which is good because they need someone that can probably play forward this year, let alone in the future, and then potentially swing back. Can kick effectively on both feet and has an enormous tank, particularly for his size. Clocked in at just over 6 minutes in the 2K time trial at the Combine, which is absolutely elite, especially for a guy his height and weight. Where Essendon choose to use him is really, I think they're probably going to be using this year to try out these tools in a variety of positions and see what works. I don't think it's going to be a really good Supercoach player at this stage, but he's got the frame to play early on. So if he does have a good preseason, there's a chance that he could line up round 1. I don't think it's likely at this stage unless injury strikes, but see how we go. Still don't think it's worth it. 175k rookie.
Sorry, Chris. All I heard was Cox is quick, but he's also under 6. So,
no, just over 6.
Oh, just over.
That is a bit above average.
Plays the game just the tip.
Oh, I love that game. It's a good game. Actually, I've heard that Patton plays that game.
Oh, Chris. He's banned.
How many Patton jokes have we had this year? A lot.
Just a couple.
Now, probably the only one that I think is going to be Supercoach relevant, especially early, is pick 9, Archie Perkins, mainly because of his role and the type of player that he is. Unfortunately, he's 171k as well because of his high pick, but he's a forward mid, 186 centimeters and 77 kilos. He's just got the potential to be a game winner. Every time he's on the ground, he's basically a half-forward flanker turned midfielder with a great mark, great burst of pace. He was earmarked for midfield time last year pre-COVID, but of course that didn't happen. As such, he was unable to prove his talent. Unfortunately, he doesn't accumulate the ball a lot playing in that role, so all we've really got is that he averaged 14.2 disposals. So what you'd like to see is if he had some sort of exposure to the midfield, that he could accumulate the ball, that would be a little bit better. But we don't have that at the moment, so we just got to go with what works. With a good preseason, he could line up round 1 potentially, but we'll just see how that goes. I don't have every confidence in these guys that are more expensive. Not an accumulator. There's a couple of question marks over them, so we'll see how we go. Next one, Zach Reed, 166k defender, so another expensive rookie. He is a key defender in the mold of an underdeveloped Darcy Moore. So a centre half back that can obviously take an intercept mark. He's quick on the lead, so he's got a really, really good kick, especially for his height at 202 centimetres, but only 82 kilos. So I can see potential there if he gets an intercepting role, but at his height, probably going to play lockdown.
Realistically speaking, they had early picks. They drafted more key position posts to set them up for the future. And
they need to.
Well, yeah, they do need to. But also when it comes to Supercoach, though, they're expensive. And their key position players, they generally don't score well for Supercoach, which means that any expensive Essendon rookie that they've picked up, generally not a good option.
And it's even the next two. So Josh Eyre and Cody Brand were both academy picks for Essendon. Eyre was picked up at pick 39. He's 117k defender forward. He's a key position forward, and he was always going to land at Essendon essentially. Again, another key tall with good endurance. So he did a 6:31 in the 2k time trial. He's 198 centimeters and 85 kilos in his frame, but he's really considered to be a development player. I can't see him cracking the first team, not this year, especially unless of course there's injury and he could come in and chop someone out. Cody Brand played at the other end of the field, so he's 117k defender, and also played with Josh Eyre at the Calder Cannons at the same time. He's 196 centimeters and 86 kilos, but he's a complete lockdown defender, so in my opinion, completely irrelevant for Supercoach, and is unlikely to play as well this year. He'll probably play in the twos. And
yes.
That's it.
Yeah, there's not many rookies there floating.
None of them excite me outside of Archie Perkins, and even then, a little bit expensive. Need more information. So we'll see how we go.
Yes, I agree. Now, how's your best 22 looking then, Chris?
All right, well, I'll preface this by saying I don't have Heppel in the 22 right now. I don't think he's going to be playing early.
Well, that's interesting because Seeker actually asked a question saying, do we think Heppel's going to be good for the whole season? But he did have more, I think, ankle surgery September-ish. Yep. And what was the news, Chris?
He's going to be on a modified training program until the end of February. So he won't actually be in full training until March. And that means that it's unlikely he's going to line up round 1 unless they just throw him in because he's the captain.
End of Feb. That's like only a few weeks before the season opener.
Yep.
Well, good thing
it's an ankle, like he hasn't been running.
Well, and good thing he's not going to be playing midfield. They already tipped him to be playing more. Was it back flank or so?
Back flank, yeah.
Yeah.
So one to watch, Heppel, but I haven't got him as playing round 1. So I haven't put him in this best 22. If he does, he's probably off the bench or on the field for one of the guys on the half back line.
Yep.
I've gone with the 3 defenders, tall defenders to start with. And again, these guys always get injured, so who knows what's going to happen. I've gone with Francis, Hooker, and Ridley as in the back line, and then Redmond, Hurley, and Gleeson on the half back line.
Don't pay out Ridley. It's not his fault.
No, it's definitely not. He's a good player, but
yes.
We'll move on. Langford, Shield, and Zaharakis. Again, Zaharakis has been playing a little bit more forward, but that could be Parrish. But I've got Parrish on the half forward line with Smith and Laverde. And then the forward line, I've got Stringer and Wright, I think probably slot straight in there with McDonald, Tip and Woody obviously in the pocket. And then Draper, Merritt and McGrath on the ball. On the interchange bench, I've got Caldwell, Ambrose, I've got Stewart and Snelling. Now, Stewart could be one of those top picks. So I do see that as an available spot. Stewart's been in and out of the side for the last couple of years, so he's not necessarily nailed on to be in that side, but they do lack height in that forward line, so they're going to want a tall on the bench somewhere. So whether that's one of these, one of that's Cox, that could be the opportunity there. And Snelling has been a regular, and he actually has played quite well. So, but I don't think that his spot's necessarily nailed either. Yep. So we'll have to see how that goes.
I actually think Redmond's probably underrated, to be honest. For me, I think, Gleeson's probably the one that's the first out for me. Like as soon as you're looking at trying to get in, Heppel or even Hind. Hind has actually been quite impressive as well in that back end.
Hind.
So do I.
I think he's got talent.
I think he'd actually be probably lining up at the moment for me somewhere. So
yeah, and in the depth, they've got Cutler there as well, who has shown a little bit. So he could potentially have more exposure. BZT obviously, but problem with like someone like BZT, like he will be a long-term player. Hurley and hooker. So what they could do is they could play hooker forward like they have played before, because they do lack that height in the front line, and then BZT comes into that role.
Yep, I can't see Cutler getting a game this year, to be honest. I mean, he played 8 last year.
It's Essendon, bro.
No, I know it's Essendon. right. I do know it's Essendon. However, Caldwell's now in as well, which means that Cutler's now even another rank behind everyone else that can play midfield. So I think he won't actually get a game this year unless they have bad injuries.
Potentially, yeah.
And that's not a bias because I don't.
Like Zaharakis as well. I mean, he's been trailing for a few years. I mean, there is spots there, but they just don't have the cattle really outside of what they just drafted key position.
If you think Zaharakis is going to regain some of that passion and that form, sure. I mean, he averaged 65 and previously averaged 79, 80-ish. But I think you're right. I think for me, Zaharakis could be the one that he could actually pull and slip away. Kind of like a Goddard. Yeah. He could literally pull a Goddard and then go from being a good player to then, on the fringe to being obsolete.
Been on the fringe for
I think
18 months
it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't make it past the year. We'll see.
I mean, I'd like to see Parrish get a little bit more mid-time. I'm not sure how much mid-time he's going to be able to get, but we'll see how that goes. Overall, what do I think about their list? It sucks. It sucks this year, and it's going to be a development year for them, and they should treat it as such. So in my opinion, they should just play their rookies and tank the shit out of the season, because these guys are going to take a long time to develop because they're all tall, and they're not going to be... you think these guys have got a chance of making the 8?
No. Well, I'm just going off the last 10 years of data.
I'm just using this empirical data over here that says no fucking chance in big red letters.
Look, was it brother-in-law or whatever? He goes for Essendon, so it can't be too harsh. But it's interesting. Was that too offensive there, Chris?
No.
You sure?
That was out of bounds. That was out of bounds.
That was out of bounds. Yeah, so I don't know. Like for me, you look at it and you think Essendon and how they went previously, and you're like, okay, they brought in Caldwell, they brought in Wright as well, so like they strengthen up a little bit. But then you look at the list like that, and you're like, if they get any injuries, they don't have that much depth to be able to compete with the 8. So it's hard for me to argue. Once you look at sort of their list, it's hard to argue.
This is who left Essendon in the offseason. So Josh Begley was delisted. Tom Bellchambers retired.
Apparently he begged to stay on the list.
I probably did. Henry Crawford, never heard of him. Joe Danaher obviously went to Brisbane. Orazio Fantasia went to Port. Noah Gown was delisted, never heard of him. Mitch Hibbard was delisted. Connor McKenna obviously retired. Sean McKernan went to St Kilda as a delisted free agent. Kobe Much was delisted. Adam Sard went to Carlton, and Jacob Townsend was delisted.
Ouch.
That's basically half of their depth. They've just basically singled the white flag this year, which means that those guys could get game time. So,
although some people will say that Fantasia and Danaher, etc., didn't really play in 2020, and they still kind of gave it a good shake. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
Adam
with you.
Sard was arguably their best player last year, and he went to Carlton.
Yeah, I mean, Essendon really do need a healthy list to compete this year.
Yeah, they've got to have minimal injuries.
Have to.
Yes. I mean, again, their top 18 is not terrible. It's not terrible, and they've added Wright and Caldwell to that, but injuries happen, man. Their top 25 is shocking. And that's the bad thing, unfortunately, for Essendon. So, sorry, Essendon fans out there.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long season.
Unfortunately, I have to agree. Interesting. Okay, Chris, it's funny because seeing Fozzie actually said, where do you think Essendon will finish and why is it bottom 3? So, maybe he's been reading your mind?
Foz.
That's a little bit aggressive.
Do a push-up with him on top of you, Jakey!
One of my favourite moments.
That is great.
I do like that one.
BT's always good for a moment, isn't he? I love him. Look.
Was that BT?
3. Isn't it?
Do a push up with him on top of you. I don't know if that is.
I don't know. Maybe we need to listen to it again. So onto the premiums, I suppose.
Yes. Speaking of premiums, let's go with the SC Elite's number one. Was a previous forward premium. Now he's a midfielder. They tipped him to be, was it the number one forward of last year? And let's go with Devon Smith. The number one
there is
person.
Nothing premium about Devon Smith.
And Steve Riverland would actually like to know why would you ever go Devon Smith ever again? Basically,
I don't know why. I don't know why you'd pick him ever.
Yeah, ever.
I picked him once and he was okay.
The alcohol they provided was great. I can't wait to catch up with SC Elites again in this one. And anytime that they actually, anytime,
nice bottle of scotch.
oh, it was lovely. Yeah,
Delicious.
we cashed $100 each. It was great. Yeah, so thanks for that one. And I actually rode your coattail on that one, Chris, on the Petrarca train. So it will be interesting because anytime they have a debate with us in our top 10, which will be coming up before season starter, it will be interesting because we can say, hey, remember last year when you pretty much said that Devon Smith was going to average like 105 and be the number one forward? Yeah, let's recount that time.
Yep.
And maybe check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Chickadee, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Chickadee, check yourself. Sorry, I have to.
Yes.
Got to represent.
Represent.
All right. So obviously the biggest premium there is actually Zach Merritt.
Zach Merritt.
Now, he had an absolutely cracking back end to the season, and I don't hate the pick. I like Zach Merritt. It's going to be, I mean, look, Sam Draper has really straightened up their ruck line, and it's about time. So I really hope that he can have a big season. But Merritt's just absolutely killed it. Average 115.6 last year. And I think that with the quarters going back, like he can run, but he only played 82.4% time on ground last year.
How aggressive does Draper look, though? He looks good.
Dude, he can roost the ball.
Yeah.
The guy can roost it.
And you know what I've been saying, Chris? All preseason, Draper has been waiting behind those curtains long enough.
You made a drapes joke.
Time to get amongst it.
That's good,
but let's look at Merritt. Okay, so he still has a generally low percentage time on ground. This year it did go up a lot though. So normally it's about 76.6 to 77.5, and that's over 2017 to 2019. This year he actually went up by nearly 5% to 82.4. That's probably to do with the shorter season because he is really impactful. Think about it like a Matty Crouch, low time on ground, but it's still a shorter game, more scaling per possession. He did average 124 for the last 9 rounds, so there is definitely some value there. 119, 137, 97, 143, 145, 125, 122, 108, 109. What an amazing last 9 rounds.
Yeah, insane. Now, the other thing I'll say about Zach Merritt is the rules could really help him. And what I'm saying about that is the lower rotations. So you're going to spend more time on ground regardless. So if he can increase his time on ground by 3 to 4%, he could have another spike in his average. So you could see him averaging, and let's take it down to 110, say that's a realistic figure for last year based on scaling. And let's say that he does average 115 this year. 620, there's not much around that price point. So, I mean, you're either getting at 30K to go to Oliver, or you already have Oliver and he's your M3.
Or you're going like a Josh down. Kelly, or hoping for a Titch.
Absolutely.
Or, you're looking at your
5, 6, 10,
Or you're looking at your Walshes, your Cripps, and trying to save money.
And it's all the way back at
Backwards.
550.
Yep.
So I don't hate Zach Merritt as a pick. I actually kind of really like it.
I think there's a
if
lot
I
of
had enough balls, I'd probably be doing it.
I think there's a lot of merit picking Zach.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to lie, but here's the thing.
He's in my camp of I'm considering him. I'm definitely considering.
I feel like I should give him more value, but then I have to watch more games.
Essendon games.
But okay, so 2016 he averaged 111.5, obviously in the doping saga. Then he backed it up with a 109.2, fell away with a 100.4. 2019 105.6, and he's always showed those kind of glimpses. Funnily enough, he actually averaged like 80% time on ground in 2016. So I don't know what happened over those couple of years. I think it's his midfield to own. And
he is the main midfielder.
He is the main person, and any big body midfielder that comes in to try and chip out, so Caldwell or your Merritts or whoever's going in there, right? So Parrish, I'm not calling him minigun Parrish, McGrath. I think they need to kind of support him, back him up, do a lot of the bulk work, and actually take a lot of the heat off him, because I honestly do rate him as a player, and he could really exceed.
Well, the problem is obviously with those low averages, he had those runs where he just get tagged every week because he was so impactful.
What's the most he could average though? Like, what's his range?
I think his range is, I reckon, 110 to 120 this year.
Yep, I agree.
So I think he can go 120 with a really solid year, but I'm thinking it's probably more somewhere in the middle.
Okay, but when he's averaging 115.6, is he a value or is it kind of...
I think it's like you're just caught in it because that's what you got to do at this point.
Correct.
Like there's just no one else. Like
it's risky either way. So you kind of you're picking him because you like him and you think that there's potential for him to slightly improve.
He's played 103 of the last 105 games. So again, total score. You know, he's reliable for games. He's reliable for score. I think he's a good option. I like. There's not really many bad things outside the fact that like he has obviously developed to work through a tag, but he's also shown the propensity to be able to just completely capitulate with a tag. That's really his only downside. So
yeah.
Look,
I do rate it. For draft, I'd be quite happy to have him as an M2. I wouldn't have him as a captain, but vice captain, 100%.
He'll go in the first round in most drafts, wouldn't he? You'd think so?
Where is he ranked? No, he's 24th, 23rd highest overall average, so he should make second round.
Yep, fair enough.
Well, that's the crazy part. Ruck's midfielders averaging a lot higher. Yeah, VC. Yeah, if you're doing snake, pick him up early on the way back for sure. You could do a lot worse, and he does have a pretty good ceiling, fairly consistent, and a great VC option for me. Yeah, there you go. Dylan Shield is the next one, and funnily enough, Dylan Shield's got some weird kind of hair dye I saw in training today, like a little carrot top kind of thing going on. But he's got dark hair, tried to kind of dye it, so now it's this little like ruffled in between color. I'm not sure what he's doing there. So
all those GWS boys went to the same barber in Sydney, and then they've just spread out across Australia as they've gone.
Yeah. Look, who knows what he's doing. But Dylan Shield is probably one of the most frustrating players for me. And I like him. He's passes the eye test. He's good to watch. When he's on
dynamic.
When he's on song, you're like,
and
holy
then he kicks
crap.
the ball and you're like, don't kick it, handball.
Maybe we should send him some boots.
You know what I love? I love when players like Dylan Shield, who is a terrible kick, and then he just generally just roosts it or like, you know, just trying to, but he does something like out of the box. Like he'll nail a really tough kick. And then the commentator will just be like, oh, his ball use is exquisite. And you're like, no, it isn't. There's no statistical analysis that says that that's accurate, but I'm okay with you saying that.
I remember something. He did like so much good work and then gets in close to goal and then kicks it out in the full. I'm like, how do you miss from there? But again, frustrating because he has potential. When he looks good, you're like, eye test, tick, dynamic, does all the right things, scores really well, goes nuts and scores well in Supercoach, and then all of a sudden does nothing.
Sells a little candy, shake and bake.
So inconsistent. Now look at his highs though. 124, 125, 129, 156, 163. Also has 55, 57, 69, 74.
Yeah, that's kind of Dylan Shield in a nutshell.
And in the past 3
This
years...
is me in a nutshell.
Help, I'm in a nutshell. How did I get in this nutshell?
Still funny.
The past, now this is the key one. Listen up for Dylan Shield, people who are tempted. 102 average in draft, people are going to pick him, and he's not bad, but be wary. He scores the last 3 years, he actually scores 22.3 more Supercoach points in wins compared to losses. Now, if you think Essendon is going to be all about those wins this year, go for it.
They're definitely not. But I'm glad he chose Essendon over Carlton for no reason.
That is a huge deviation if I've seen one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
There you go.
So Dylan Shield put a big cross next to his name. I get valuable in draft. You know, I would not pick him in draft as a M3. Sorry, but yeah, that's about it.
He's not bad, but he can get injured a little bit. I don't know. It's one of those ones. In draft, it's not so bad because you'll ride those highs and lows with him. He'll either win you a game or he'll get you that 55, 57 and you're like, like Shield. Yeah, and then he'll lose you a game. Yeah. So you just have to kind of take those checks and balances and hope you're on the right side of it.
Absolutely.
Ridley. Now, Ridley, me this.
Overpriced.
Can he back it up?
Completely overpriced. There's no way I'm paying $550K for a guy that averaged 101 in a season where intercepting markers got complete ridiculous scaling. I think he can average well. I'm tipping him to go somewhere between 90 to 100.
Yeah, I do like him though. He did look really good, but I do agree. It's kind of one of those.
And the ball's going to be down there.
Well, has he proved it a lot? Not so much. Like in for me, when you're looking at that 100 mark, it's kind of like, okay, well, do you pick him at 101.9 or do you kind of go with someone else around that mark that you probably have a little more faith in? And I do love Ridley. He actually looks really good. I'm not going to lie with that. However, yeah, I think you're right. 101.9. So he averaged 110 the first 7 rounds and then 93 the last 7 rounds. So that kind of gives you the split right down the middle. So is he going to average you around a 93 or is he going to kind of have a bit of an even flow sort of feel?
The other thing is at full strength, I mean, and Essendon's backline have never really gotten to gel because constantly one of them's injured. If it's not Hurley, it's Hooker. If it's not Hooker, it's Aaron Francis. Like those are the 3 guys, all intercepting defenders in that backline, as well as Jordan Ridley. So I can see if they've got a full complement of defenders, his impact as an intercepting defender could actually diminish. So we'll see how that pans out. I mean, last year you had Francis played 8 games.
Yep.
Hooker played 8 games. Again, Hooker might play forward, but then you've got BCT that would swing into that role. Or one of the rookies. So there's just so many question marks about Jordan Ridley. I'd just rather wait, and I wouldn't pick him up. Someone's going to pick him up in draft.
Yep.
And I'm not touching him because I'm not paying 102 for him. No chance.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do agree. And it's funny because Essendon have been, they're looking to try and inject some speed into their defence since Sard left, but apparently injections are illegal and it's stunted their growth as a club. So.
oh, wow.
Very unusual, that. Oh, boy.
That joke was 8 years in the making. It's still good.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so moving on. Like, mind you, again, Ridley, if you back him in, you can pick him at 100 average in draft, but don't do it in standard. That train was last year. Don't try and ride last year's coattails. Parrish. Now, Parrish again has been one of those frustrating people.
Absolutely,
He's lost his miniguns title, and thank you for those who have been following online. It's now gone to Jai Minigun Simpkins. Parrish, I don't know, it's funny because if he had the right role and he had it permanently, he would actually be a really good Supercoach option. But it's one of those things, he's just been sort of, part way in, part way out, does little roles here, does little roles there. He goes on runs, and I don't mean the Mexican kind. So he goes, in the first 4 rounds, he averaged 66. Then from round 6 to 9, he averaged 92.5. Round 11 to 15, averaged 103.8. And then after that, the last 3 rounds averages 83. So he kind of started low, went up to a little bit, went big, dropped back down even below that. So it's one of those weird ones for me.
It's if he doesn't play midfield, he's not going to get there. And he's like his clearance numbers as a midfielder is ridiculous.
Yeah,
like for while playing with them, I don't get it. Like he needs to be more part of the midfield rotation as a primary midfielder.
But they've brought in another big body midfielder now in Caldwell. So what does that mean for Parrish?
I can't see him getting any more mid-time this year, which means to me it's a completely wasted pick.
And what's even worse is Parrish is normally a forward mid. This year he's a mid only, along with Devon Smith. Now you bring in Caldwell, I can tell you Devon Smith is the worst midfielder pick you can have this year. He's a mid only. He won't be in that midfield rotation for me. I think you look at everyone else coming into that side. Parrish will keep it. Merritt will have it. You'll have McGrath, everyone else coming in, Caldwell, Shield. I think Devon Smith is out of that midfield rotation, which means you are paying in draft for a midfielder who's playing forward.
Yep, and he still can't kick.
He still can't out-average Petrarca either, but, that was just, 30? What was the difference, like 30?
I'll never forget.
35? What was that?
I'll never forget. I think it was like the first or second game of the year. Devon Smith comes in, he rolls through the half-forward line. He's got the entire open 50, and there's just the full forward and the defender in front of him, and he's just like, all right, I'll just chip it over to the full forward, and he just kicks it straight into the defender. Oh man!
Hey, look,
it's just good to watch. It's just quality banter right there.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Well, speaking of Devon Smith, he's our next off our list. Now, if Devon Smith was a forward, average 85.2, I'd be like, yeah, cool, pick up Devon Smith as a forward in draft. Too expensive though in standard either way, 458k.
There's no uptick.
No
in that.
way in hell. Yeah, it's just funny. Even in my notes here on my spreadsheet, SC Elites thought Devon was the best thing since sliced bread and had him outscoring Petrarca in 2020. Now, I just put that in the spreadsheet so everyone can know that, and it will live on forever.
Forever, ever?
Well, what did Petrarca average? 120. Devon Smith averaged 85.
Yeah,
That's a lot. That's like a 35
We should
point.
have taken over-unders on that.
That's a 35 point fuck up. And that's going to be Chris this year when he picks Walsh instead of Cripps.
Oh, not going to happen.
Maybe not 35 points.
Walsh is a star, mate.
Okay, we've been there.
Don't talk about
We've
this.
been there.
Walsh is a star.
Okay, but Devon Smith, look, he did average 97 for the last 6 rounds. He averaged, 71.25 between, I think it was round 2. So he started off well. From round 3 to round 11, he averaged 71. So that's pretty bad.
He hit a 105 in round 1. Him and Petrarca
both
had the
hit.
same score. Yeah.
Yes, correct. He had 190, 500s. Look, for draft, I think you pick him up around where he is. As a forward, even he can still average you mid-80s, so I don't think there's too much wrong there. Parrish, though, averaged 86.7. Again, even he'll have some mid-rolls, he'll have some forward rolls. Generally speaking, the last couple of years, he'll go on runs. Just expect that, and he'll average about 86.
Yep.
Now, in draft, don't drop these people if they have a low run. They come back. That's how I actually won our draft league. Someone dropped Parrish when he ended up averaging really low. So where is he? When he averaged 66 for the first 4 rounds, someone dropped him. I'm like, what an idiot. So bang, put him on my bench, and then he starts turning around his form. I put him on field. He has a run, and you do well. Same as Devon Smith. Someone dropped him when he started doing bad. I put him on my bench, starts to look okay, put him on field. Next minute, averages 97 for the back end of the year. That's how you win games, particularly if you're in a 12-person league. You can't afford to drop known players just to try and pick up some hype guy that has a good 3-round average.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you agree? I'm looking all the time for players that have potential and that I know on the waiver.
Ben's the guy that sets his alarm for the 4 a.m. waiver wire just to see what's up.
No, because we used to have it where you could see what everyone put, so you'd have to wake up then, because the second that someone like me says I want someone, then everyone looks at it before when I'm asleep, and then they pick their player. So you have it silent so no one can see who's bidding on who, and then I just put in an absolute 10 different combinations for people that I want.
I like it.
Yeah, do it that way. Okay, so now...
I suppose we're at the tail end.
Langford, I think, is probably just draft relevance. We've already spoken about Heppel briefly. Heppel... Okay, we'll go mid.
I think Draper's got decent value in a draft. I think you can pick him up late as a number 1 ruck.
I just saw someone that had Draper as their ruck 1.
What, in standard?
Yeah, I'm like...
Start again.
Yeah. Default.
No thanks.
Start again. No, but see, here's the problem. If you try and go with anyone other than maybe the top few rucks, Bruce I can understand, because if he stuffs up, maybe you have... If I'm starting Bruce, I'm definitely starting Marshall with that swing forward. Bruce stuffs up, you then literally just trade out Marshall into the ruck, and then you exchange Bruce for another forward that you can afford, and it's not actually that bad of a situation. Compared to last year, we had no cover at all. So it's not that bad. But if you have 2 rucks, you are relying on both of those mid-price rucks to actually do well, stay healthy, and if they get injured, you are literally screwed because there is no other ruck around that price point that you're going to be able to handle.
Going to cost of trades. So the other one's obviously Jai Caldwell. As a forward mid, how do you think he's going to get enough mid minutes to be relevant as a forward? Because a lot of people are looking at him as a potential in that forward line at 348k.
I could be swayed. And the reason...
I'll tell you this for nothing. He's got the talent to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's role dependent, and it's whether or not his body can hold up.
Now, the funny thing though, he's only ever scored over 73 Supercoach once, and it was an 84.
Yeah, I mean, look,
that's his highest Supercoach score.
He played. Yeah, so here's the thing: if he's in a permanent midfielder in that rotation, then it's different because he never got that at GWS.
Correct. So I'm with you there. And it's tipped that they want him as that big-bodied sort of in and under midfielder. If that's the case, I'm actually putting him in the bracket of, your mid-pricer forward or even that mid-pricer midfield. For me, he's kind of competing because it's around the same price, between 310 and 350. You're looking at Haitley, you're looking at Heppel, you're looking at Hanbury, and then in the forward line, it's like Lance Franklin, along with Zeeble, along with
Ben Brown,
Danaher, Ben Brown, and Caldwell. So for me, it's kind of, I'm putting him in that bracket. And at this point in time, if I had the money and he was doing well, I'd probably have him even as my M6. instead of one of those other midfielders, if I felt like his value was better and if I felt like Zeeble and Danaher and all these other guys are actually better value forward, I think it's an option. And I'm not actually ruling him out. I'm waiting to see a little bit more from preseason, particularly now that there's only one game. I'm sure as hell going to watch that game just to see if they can notice anything. And
I
even
hate the fact that there's one game.
I know,
how
but
much can you learn from one game of football?
they're going to play scratch matches themselves, surely.
Yeah,
they're going,
always, yeah.
and the Victorian sides, 100%, they're going to be playing scratch
They usually
matches.
televise them too. They put them on their website and stream it or whatever.
So I am definitely keen to watch the role in that and see how that unfolds. But I am not ruling him out, and I'm definitely not throwing him in my side recklessly, but I am watching to see his role and how he sort of looks within that role.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Quickly wrapping on the draft though. Now, Kyle Langford, not a huge one, average 81.3. He did average 94 in the final 5 rounds, and he scored a 103, 124, 79, 74, 89. He's actually not too bad in a draft league. Now, he averaged 81, so as a forward mid, it's not too bad. 3 scores of 88 plus, so 3 88 pluses and as well as 300s. So he's not the worst player there. And rumor is he's actually looking quite impressive in the preseason. However, he is a little bit behind some others. So for me, he's one that you possibly could watch. They said last year, so Langford was one that took a huge step up, and he's been taken another step in his running capabilities. McGrath, Ridley, and those other mid-tier have stepped up as far as their training intensity, and they've presented really well to train. So there's not much there, is there?
No, I don't like it. That's pretty much it for Essendon, I think.
Yeah. Do you ever see Stringer coming back to being relevant?
No.
I mean,
not at all. Never. Not for a team, no, for a winning team.
Well,
but if Essendon are not a winning team.
But they said BT, the package. Is it one of those packages that you sort of, you leave and you ship it somewhere and it just goes like disappearing and you never see it again? Is it one of those things that you have to claim on insurance? Is the package that bad? Well, he had a good run.
Package lost in transmission.
Has the package? Yeah, is it?
Very unusual, that. Oh, boy.
Very unusual, the package. It's, I don't know. I just can't see it. It's an interesting one. He did average 70 the year before. If you're in a deep league, sure.
When he was tried out as a midfielder, it failed miserably. So he's really only going to be an impact forward player. And even then, he needs to be on a team that's going to be able to kick. He's going to need to kick 3 goals a game, to make an impact in Supercoach. So yeah, not for me. Not ever, and not in draft.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think we kind of touched on Heppel, 319K. So I don't think he's going to be making.
If he plays round 1, I'll be in consideration, but I don't think he's going to.
I don't know if he's going to show us enough before round 1. That's my only concern. And even then, it's interesting.
Could be a round 3 special.
Maybe
you didn't hit a mid-price.
Maybe
Heppel's the one at round 3.
Maybe Haitley shits the bed and you're sideways.
That's it.
Yeah, easy. All right, well, that wraps us up for Essendon. And look, stay tuned for next time. Who have we got next, Chris? Is it Fremantle?
Freo. We'll give him the old heave-ho.
The old Fremantle, the Nathan Fife special. So, look, until next time, please do enjoy, comment, tweet, subscribe, follow. Give us all the love that you have been. We have been extremely blessed the last 6 days with the amount of feedback, comments. And, look, for those on the airwaves, stay true, and we'll talk to you soon.
Cheers, guys.
Alrighty, bye.
Bye-bye.